Hello and welcome to another library book review. This week I have another set of 10 library books, and I'm doing something a little bit different this week. I asked the librarian what authors would be really good for my daughter Juliet to read right now. She's 7 months old, and they suggested 3 authors: Denise Fleming, Jane Cabrera, and Mem Fox. So I just went to the shelves and I picked up a few books from each author, and that's what I have in my stack this week. So these are authors that are going to tell very simplistic stories that are specifically targeted for that really young audience. We're looking for stories that maybe have, I would say, vivid and clear pictures where you can see exactly what's going on, or maybe books that teach numbers, shapes, colors, and also books that maybe have a little bit of rhythm to them, or something that's kind of singable or that you can perform. That's really the ideal kind of book for that super young audience. So I'm going to start out with my very favorite book this week, and that one is by Denise Fleming. This book is called Lunch. And there you can see it. It is about a little mouse, and he discovers a table of food in the book. And it just starts, "Mouse was very hungry. He was so hungry." And then you can perform a little sniff, sniff, sniff for the mouse. And what I love is that it teaches colors in a really fun way. It'll say he ate a crisp white turnip, a tasty orange carrots, sweet yellow corn. So you see how it's like very simple compared to some of the other storybooks that I've covered on this channel. And it just keeps the child engaged on each page. And I think it's a great way to teach color. One really cute detail that I loved about this book is that as the mouse eats through his stack of food, he keeps getting little bits of the food stuck to his coat of fur. And so you'll see that he's got the colors of all the food that he's just finished stuck on his fur. And so by the end of the book, he's very, very colorful. It has a really cute ending after he goes back to his little mouse hole. It says, "He took a nap until dinner time." It's just a really charming, cute book. It just does what it's supposed to do. Entertain kids, teach about colors, and it just has a really great, fun energy to it. It only takes a couple minutes to read, so it's a very short book, but short and sweet. Next up, I have this book. It says, "There was an old woman who lived in a shoe." And so it takes this old nursery rhyme, and what I like about this book is it sort of updates it to a modern sensibility. It's really just telling the story of this cute grandma, and she takes care of all these children and all these animals. And I love I think the charming illustrations. I can't tell, but I think these are kind of like oil pastels maybe, and a little bit of collage. You'll notice how clear these illustrations are, like very clear lines around each of the characters, very clear facial expressions. So these are the types of illustrations that work really well for the young audience. And I like that the book is singable. I like that the book has those clear, colorful illustrations. And I just liked this kind of warm feeling that you get by seeing this grandma living with all these cute animals and kids. So it's just a really nice feeling that you get as you read that story. And I really like her update on that old fairy tale. Next, I have Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. This is another book by Jane Cabrera. That last one I showed you was also by Jane Cabrera. And so I'm seeing a theme. She likes to update the old fairy tales. What I liked in this book was, again, beautiful, colorful illustrations, bold outlines, so it's super easy for kids to see what's going on, and you can point out the deer, the squirrel, the star, the trees. And you know that as you're pointing to these things in the illustration, your kid is probably able to process those words and start to understand what a whale looks like, or what the baby whale looks like, or what the little octopus looks like. In some of the other books that I've covered in this channel, I've criticized that sometimes it's hard to see in illustrations exactly what the animals are, or the objects that are being illustrated. Like, they're very painterly and beautiful, but they're not ideal for a young audience to learn new words. So that problem is solved here, and I just loved like seeing these different environments around the world brought to life in this cute and colorful illustration style. One of my favorite pages, I'm going to show you this, is the jungle here. And I liked, when I was reading the story, the first time I actually didn't read it with the traditional Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star song. Instead, I just kind of made up my own way to do it. So I'll just perform a couple pages so you get the idea. Glisten, glisten, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the grassy plain, through the warm, wet jungle rain. Glisten, glisten, little star, how I wonder what you are. So you can perform it any way you want, but no matter what, it's going to have a nice rhythm that's probably going to entertain your little one. Next up, I have The Cow Who Clucked. This book is by Denise Fleming, the author of that first book that I showed you. And I think she might have been inspired by Van Gogh, because, you know, look at that little page that she put in the front of the book. So this book is about a cow who wakes up one day and he is saying cluck instead of moo, or she is saying cluck instead of moo. So she goes off in search of her moo, and so she just visits all these animals asking, you know, cow met dog. Cluck, cluck, said cow. Woof, woof, said dog. It is not you who has my moo, said cow. And on she went. And it just repeats that pattern as she visits different animals around the barnyard. So here she visits a bee. Bzz, bzz, said bee. It is not you who has my moo, said cow. And on she went. And at the end of the book, she finds, surprise, a little chicken, or a little hen. And it says, hen, cried cow. It is you who has my moo. Because when cow shuffled past hen, she says cluck, cluck, and then the hen says moo, moo. So then they switched, and then the cow got her moo back. So that's the premise of the book. I just thought that was such a creative idea. What a fun way to like explore the barnyard animals. Also, something I want to mention about this author that I haven't told you before. If you look at her illustrations, they're quite unique and they feel very handmade. The way that she does it is that she uses a paper making technique. So I guess she mixes up different paper pulps using different colors, and then I guess she must have some kind of stencil or something in order to try and help her pour the paper pulp onto sheets where she's going to make that handmade paper. And so what you're looking at in all of these illustrations is handmade paper. And that's why it just has that rich texture to it and unique handmade feel. So really creative book by Denise Fleming. Next up I have Our Dragon, which kind of has the opposite style of illustrations. This is very like vector and flat. I noticed this author, Mem Fox, likes to work with different illustrators, so she has very different illustrations in each book. And this is about a little dragon here, little baby dragon who can't help but breathe fire no matter what his parents tell him to do. And the parents understand that it's going to be hard for a little baby dragon not to breathe fire, so they're very understanding parents. But the dragon just really can't help it. And so he one day is playing with his toys, and then he accidentally, you know, burns his toys. And it really is a story about a little baby and the baby not being able to control himself, and then the parents having empathy and understanding and treating him like you should treat a baby who makes a mistake. So I thought that was a really cute premise, and these illustrations, particularly of the baby dragon, I thought were very charming. So that book is Our Dragon. Next, I have another book by Mem Fox. This one is called Early One Morning. The standout for me in this book are these cute French-style illustrations. Just take a look at how the character is drawn here and those nice loose brush strokes. And basically, this is the story of a little boy who goes around his farm and he is looking for eggs. And he's looking through everything at the farm, you know, around the tractor, around the haystack, and he keeps walking and walking. And then there's a page toward the end of the book that I thought was adorable. It shows all the different places that he has walked and explored over the course of the book. And then finally he comes home, and then the grandma says to him, "Well, you knew all along where the eggs were." And then they have some eggs for breakfast. It's a really cute story, cute illustrations. Next up is Mama Cat Has Three Kittens. This book is by Denise Fleming, so you're gonna see that handmade paper illustration style again. And this book is about a cat. She has two kittens who are very playful, and they do everything with her, you know, whether they're washing their paws or they're walking the stone wall or whatever. And then she has one cat who is always napping, and that cat is this orange cat, Boris. And then towards the end of the book, Boris finally wakes up after many pages. And what does he do? He pounces, basically, and he does a few kind of activities that the other cats were doing throughout the book. And then he curls up and he takes a nap. So Boris stretches, yawns, washes his paws, and pounces on Fluffy, Skinny, and Mama Cat. And then Boris naps. And that's the end of the book. Some really cute cat illustrations in that one. I think the illustration style is my favorite aspect of that book. 1, 2, Buckle My Shoe is by Jane Cabrera. So this is that author who was telling the little nursery rhymes. And this is a nice counting book. It's really good for teaching kids numbers. You can count different elements in a lot of the pages. And it's just got a cute rhyme to it as you're reading through the pages. And a very, very charming illustration style. I think that this illustration style just works so great for the young audience. One nice thing I'll tell you about all the books in this stack is my girl was definitely like paying attention and engaged with all of them, which isn't something that necessarily happens with some of those other kids' books that I've reviewed on this channel. Next, I have The Daily Sniff, and this is by Jane Cabrera. This book introduces kids to the news. So you've got dad reading the news, you've got the kids watching the TV news, and then it explains that dogs get their news by sniffing, right? And then it tells the story of this dog who, I think he missed his daily sniff because he had a cone of shame around his head. And then the next day he returns and everything smells super weird. It turns out there is a skunk in town, and the skunk has been making a lot of weird smells around town. So they go and they find the skunk's mom, and they return that skunk to the forest. There's a really beautiful illustration, it's like my favorite illustration in the book, if I can find it, sorry, of the skunk and all of her little babies sleeping in the forest. So that's this story. And I have one book left. This book is by Mem Fox. It is called Tough Boris. And this is a story of a pirate. And it kind of follows the same pattern, page after page. So I'll read a few pages so you get the idea. Once upon a time, there lived a pirate named Boris van der Borch. He was tough. All pirates are tough. He was massive. All pirates are massive. He was scruffy. All pirates are scruffy. And it follows that pattern throughout the rest of the book. I did notice though, in the illustrations, there seems to be another story that you can kind of read into this. So I read this book once just by narrating the words that were on the page. And then the next time I read it, I think I did a little hybrid where I tried to read the words and then I was pointing out to my daughter the different details in the illustrations. And I think I read it a third time where I just focused on trying to look at all the details in the illustrations and figure out what is going on from one illustration to the next. What I found is that it was actually a little bit hard for me to figure out the linear story that is happening over the course of this book. It seems to me like there's a little kid who has a violin and he steals it, and then a pirate comes after him, and then the pirate decides, you know what, I'm just going to listen to this kid playing the violin. That's the main story that I got out of it. But I feel like perhaps there's a little bit more that I should have been able to read into it, but I wasn't able to. I'll read to the last few pages because this is where the story maybe has some additional meaning to it. It says that after Boris lost his parrot, he cried and cried. All pirates cry. And so do I. And on the last page, you see this little boy with his violin, and he's maybe stranded or he's alone on this island. I couldn't quite tell what was going on. And so maybe one reason I put it at the end of my stack is I really wanted to understand what the little boy's story was. I wanted to know exactly what happened with this violin and why is he alone on this island. So I kind of wish that this were a first or second draft of the book, and then the author had done a third or fourth draft to really make it feel complete and totally comprehensible to a reader like me who wants to understand what the story is in the illustrations. But that's just my opinion. Maybe mystery is good, and maybe that's what the author was going for. Anyway, I hope that you appreciated this stack of books. And honestly, I think all of these are around the same level this week. They're all quite enjoyable to read to a little kid. But my favorites, if you want to just get my favorites, Lunch by Denise Fleming. There Was an Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe by Jane Cabrera. And another one by Jane Cabrera, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Hope you enjoy these books. And if you'd like more book reviews like this, please just subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next review. Bye.